So how much time should you spend practicing before you get on stage? Let's talk about it in this talk tip. Check it out. Hey, Marianne Hickman here, and in talk tip number 10, we are talking about how much time should I spend practicing before I actually take the stage. I gotta tell you, here's my bomb that I'm gonna drop on you. You are never done practicing. Even your final delivery, that's still a practice. Now, I'll tell you what I do when I work with people one-on-one. Now, I just had a client. He was on a pretty big stage. I think there were over 1,000 people in the room. This is a huge event that's hosted by a lot of really big influencers, and there were some big headliners on that stage. So this amazing client of mine was obviously wanting to do a really, really good job showing up on that stage. Now, he had practiced not only on stage, but also off stage before. But this time he really wanted to see it all come together and nail it. So when we were starting for his presentation, I met him 6 weeks before the presentation started, and we practiced an hour a week, every single week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week as we got closer to the actual day of the event, for a 25-minute presentation. Now, here's what that means. We put him through what's called the pressure cooker. The pressure cooker is where you will probably get through 8 minutes of content, and it will take you over an hour to do it. Why? Because I'm sitting with you and I am critiquing every single part of your signature presentation. I'm critiquing your body language. I'm critiquing your word choice. I'm critiquing your sentence structure. I'm critiquing the chronology of your story. I'm critiquing your tonality. I'm critiquing your stage geography. I'm critiquing every single thing that the audience is going to see, because I don't want any distractions to steal from your message. The minute you find out that you're going to be taking the stage, you want to start practicing. Now, the students that I'm working with, they are on stage regularly. I'm talking regularly, multiple times a month on a physical stage. Now, these guys, they're practiced. They know their craft. They know what they are talking about. They have their expertise. And yet, even though they are so well versed and so well practiced and they show up on stage quite a bit, they are practicing 30 minutes a day, every day for the week leading up to the event. That includes practicing in the mirror, practicing with anyone that's in the room that will listen to you, and also re-watching your old videos and your old footage once they've gotten on some stages in the past. There's no end to the level of improvement. So if you're getting on stage, I would say as soon as you know you're going to be on stage, practice at least once a week and then increase it to multiple times the week leading up to your final presentation. But here's the thing I got to tell you about practice. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes permanent, which means practice without feedback is putting the reps in on something that you might not even like the end product. You might not even like the final presentation. It might not even get your goals if you don't get feedback all along the way. Now, I'll never forget, I was actually flying up north in an airplane as the pilot to go pick up a couple cars. My husband and I bought some cars and we were like, oh my gosh, well, I want to make sure that we don't have to deal with extra cars. We can't drive 2 cars up there, buy 2 cars and drive 4 home. That's ridiculous. Why don't we just go up and fly and get these cars? So I'm flying the airplane, we're on our way up, and I've got my instructor, my brother, sitting right next to me. And we're about to go over the mountains. And dude, I had to get up at like 3 in the morning, get to the airport, get wheels up by 4 o'clock. It was early and the sun hadn't even crept up yet. Now, I don't know if you've experienced highway hypnosis when you've been driving so long on the road that you start to just, give up a little bit on your steering and you get a little bit wobbly. Well, the same thing happens in the air. And to top it off, I'm still a student, so I'm getting all this stuff thrown at me, like these extra blurry goggles that I have to wear to like blur out my peripheral vision. And it was really early, and these conditions started to get to the point where it distracted me in my flight. And I got 1 degree off and just kept going on this left trajectory off of my flight pattern. Now, without feedback, I would have gotten further and further and further and further away from my flight path and from my destination. And left unchecked, I would have run out of fuel and had at best to do an emergency landing. At worst, ended up in a field somewhere, a tragic ending. Now, this is to illustrate how critical immediate feedback is. Thankfully, my brother's sitting right next to me. He's a pilot. He's there to be my instructor. And he said, hey, did you notice? We've been about 1 degree off for the past 30 seconds. That's going to cost you. We need to get back on track. Imagine if he hadn't done that and we would have gone on forever on that other leg of this complete wrong direction. I was so grateful for the immediate feedback, and that's what you need for your signature keynote practice is immediate feedback. You need feedback from an expert who's been on stage thousands of times, and you need also feedback from your peers, feedback from the audience, feedback from your ideal client who might be watching. When you get that feedback, it will either clue you into actually, thank you for that feedback. I was way off, and that's not the message I wanted to communicate at all. Or that feedback will say, yes, I nailed it. I'm on the right track. So the answer to the question, how much time? As much time as possible. And here's the bonus piece. If you're practicing your signature keynote, record it for multiple reasons. Number one, you can use that recording and give yourself feedback later. Number two, you can give yourself practice by recording on a live video. That's content. You can repurpose that and post pieces of it on Instagram or YouTube Shorts or social media. And number three, you might even take that, rip the language out of it, meaning pull the transcript and make it into a blog post. And now you're producing even more content for your social media and for your website. I hope that was helpful for you. I really look forward to hearing your comments and questions in the chat. These videos are based on your questions to me. So I want to know what's keeping you from the next level up in your stage facilitation and growing your business through stages. I will see you in the next Talk Tips.
Marianne Hickman here again. Listen, I hope super helpful for you. Maybe you learned something new. Share with me in the comments what was valuable. Or if you have this whole separate question like, hey, I wanted to know about this. I wanted to know about stage fright. I want to know how about my presentation on stage. I want to know about how to dress on stage. Anything that you want to know that's relevant to growing your business through stages, put in the questions. Because guess what? I go through and answer all of those personally. That's not an agency or a VA. That's me going through and looking at your questions because you are who I am here for. So last thing is I want you to get this database. If you haven't gotten it already, now I've got thousands of downloads on this thing, so maybe you've got it, but if not, make sure you go to mariannehickman.com/database. What that's going to do is take you to a page. You're going to input all of your information. We're going to send the database to you. You're going to request access to it. I keep it locked down so I can make sure I get it to just the right people. And you're going to request access. And then once you have that, you're going to go through and apply to podcasts that have the topic that you'd be an expert speaking on. Here's the thing. I get this database updated twice a week. So there's always new stuff in there. And if you're a podcaster, there's even a list of guests that you can have on your show on that podcast. Maybe you end up doing a podcast swap and you grow your audience that way. Regardless, I want you to get it. So mariannehickman.com/database, and we'll see you in the next Talk Tips.